So everyone in the entire rest of the world right now is watching America going, oh my God, what's going on with all this political nonsense? So we're going to keep it to a very minimum and get down to business with some hardcore hardware and technology this time. What do you think, Wendell?
Watson for president?
That's what I've been screaming. I mean, really, how far away are we from artificial intelligence being president? And do you think that artificial intelligence would be better as a governor of humanity compared to some of the people who are currently in power? I know the people who are currently in power will really not want that because they know that an artificial intelligence will level the playing field and come in and be like, all right, so you guys have programmed me to try to make things good for everybody instead of just the elite few. Well, that's pretty much how it'll go.
Can you imagine a presidential debate moderated by Watson? I mean, I think that would be pretty interesting. It's like, oh, Watson is immediately fact-checking and, is a panopticon of all human knowledge. And when a presidential candidate says something completely retarded, Watson's like, I'm sorry, could you repeat that? Because I'm not sure I understood what you said.
If we could also program Watson to be, like, rude, I would love him to host the Trump versus Clinton debate because one of them would open their mouth and be like, well, and then Watson would be like, shut your mouth, you're wrong. And then Donald Trump would be like, you see the thing? And then Watson would be like, Donald, you too, shut your mouth. And it would just be back and forth and no one would ever speak. It would just be, they would just stand there in silence and then we would have an election based upon pulchritude, just like we've done ever since John F. Kennedy, since they first started televising the debates. We're like, oh, which one's the most handsome? Which one looks the best? That one. That's how it works, right?
As Americans, we're kind of bitching and moaning about our presidential campaign, but I'm looking over there at the UK and the whole Brexit thing, and I feel sorry for you guys. I'm sorry. Your prime minister candidate selection, that whole debacle, Cameron out, Camrexit. I don't know. It's not as cool and catchy as Brexit, but it's a mess.
I'm going to be over there, guys, London, in about a week and something like on the 9th or 10th or whatever. So if you guys want to hit up a pub, let me know. I'll be just south of London, like 30, 40 minutes south of London. So anybody in the area, let me know. Maybe Tiny Time Logan, what are you up to? Tasty, who else is over there? A few other people over there. Maybe we'll say hi to them. Who knows? Who knows? All right, let's get down to some of this stuff here. So yeah, Watson for president, of course. The other person that we've mentioned a couple times who's running for president is Zoltan Istvan. And Zoltan, I got your email, and we're moving into our new office, and it would be an honor to have you on the show to talk about science. He's running for president, but he's the science-oriented presidential candidate. He has some interesting views that I think a lot of you guys will see as radical, and some of them probably extremely radical. But he is very into just, the futurology and transhumanism. So if you guys are interested in that, check him out. What else do we have to mention here on this stuff? That's pretty much it. I cut everything else. You've got Jill Stein and Gary Johnson are both two other alternates that I wanted to mention real quick because Gary Johnson said he would probably pardon Snowden, and Jill Stein was like, I'll pardon Snowden and I'll put him in my cabinet. So some interesting options out there. Anyway, let's get into some conspiracy theory stuff. I was gonna correct myself, but I decided just to stutter through it. Be strong and stutter through, right? I don't know what I'm doing. So Epic CEO is, he's got on a tinfoil hat with Microsoft's name on it, and he's saying that Microsoft, over the next 5 years, is going to just make Steam hell. He's going to make you hate Steam. Microsoft is going to just introduce a few bugs here and there every time they do an update, or just mess with another feature, and then, after a while, you're just going to hate Steam and then have to go over to the Microsoft Universal Windows thing or whatever their Windows platform. But right now we have an interesting thing on Windows. Everything is based on, Win32, and all the programs have to run like that. But now they've got their new Universal Windows platform, and they really would like to use that as a way to lock down the platform. And Epic CEO is quite scared of it. So, Wendell, do you think that Tim Sweeney here is right, that Microsoft is actually going to try to lock it down and sabotage Steam?
I think that the way that these things usually play out with Microsoft is that there's not really an intent to create chaos and sabotage things, but there kind of is. I mean, if you go really back, if you reach really far back, there's something called the Halloween memos where Microsoft was actually sort of talking about this openly. I think they've sort of learned not to do that anymore. But the situation here is that Microsoft wants to take control of the gaming experience on Windows, and we're not necessarily talking about, you know, the awful cancer that was games for Windows, but really marrying the console experience with the desktop computer experience. And so the missing puzzle piece that hasn't really been properly explained to a lot of people is this universal Windows binary thing. Now, the promise of universal Windows binaries is actually a really good one. You would be able to run programs pretty much anywhere, and one of the facets of that is, you know, of course, being able to run a Win32 program on a console like the Xbox One, because at the heart of the Xbox One is an AMD APU x86 instruction set. And so if the compiler compiles the program in just the right way, the binary that runs on the Xbox One will run on a desktop computer. And you can also extend that. I mean, if you've got an x86 phone, you may be able to run those applications on your phone, and so you may be able to shuttle, depending again on the compiler and a lot of really advanced technology that may not be happening at Microsoft, and a lot of really cool stuff. You may be able to run these programs pretty much anywhere. So let's say I was running Office on my phone, and it's like, okay, I need to plug into the computer. I'm going to plug into the computer and do stuff. Now, the way that's happening right now with Windows Continuum is basically the whole Windows RT, Windows on ARM, because it's ARM on a phone, but you plug it into a dock, but you can get a full-size keyboard and screen, and then it acts more like, you know, Windows RT tablet. We're not talking x86 on the phone right now, but we are talking x86 for games on platforms like Xbox One. And so if only publishers would adopt the Windows App Store for their games and Windows Universal binaries, games like Tomb Raider, Rise of the Tomb Raider, would be available on Xbox One and your desktop computer, wherever you want to play it, from the same binary. And that's really what Microsoft is after. And in order for Microsoft to be successful there, it has to be a better experience than Steam. And so this guy is making the leap to say, will the experience actually be better than Steam so that people move, or will the temptation be to kneecap the experience in Steam so that everybody's experience in Steam is very bad, so that Windows Store, by comparison, is actually a good experience? And he's probably not far off with that.
So the thing I guess that I would start to think about right here is, because, you know, of course, Microsoft wants all the games to come over and run inside their Windows Store, and they want everything to be inside the Windows Store. But what is to stop Valve from creating Steam, you know, under the Universal Windows platform, and then making it available in the store so that you can have Steam on all your platforms and all your devices and all that sort of thing? What's to stop Steam from moving over to that platform? That's what
I think that
a big question is for me.
I think that totally could be a possibility. I think one thing that might preclude Steam from doing that is the license agreement with their developers. Is there any language in their license agreement that would, you know, define a console differently from a computer? And if that's the case, would Steam have to say, oh, you have to buy this if you want to be able to run it on a console, or you want to be able to do this, that, or the other? I suspect that's probably not the case. I suspect that this kind of thing will be useful for Microsoft to say, sell a Surface tablet that can stream games from the Xbox One, which you can kind of sort of already do, depending on how many hoops you jump through and what you're doing there. And so you basically have a box in your house that can play games, because a tablet can't play games. You need an external dock, or a desktop computer or something like that, a Thunderbolt dock that we saw in Computex. Or something like that, to really be able to play. But hey, if you could stream it, or if you've got some of this other functionality, then yeah, maybe the gaming experience could work like that, where you're gaming on a portable device, but the portable device is not really doing the heavy lifting. So
let's go through another scenario right now. So right now, even if Steam was to move over to the Universal Windows platform, most of the binaries for the games are still going to be Win32 binaries. So let's just say, way tinfoil hat scenario, in 5 or 6 years, Windows says, you know what, the Win32 thing is not what we want to do anymore. We want to lock down our platform like Apple or something. And no more Win32 on this version of Windows. Maybe they could do. I don't think they would do that, because that would really, really destroy the huge amount of software that they have available. But if they did, then all the games would have to be written for the new Universal Windows platform. So I don't think that's going to happen. That's kind of like a way out there, kind of weird idea. But maybe if it happens, I don't know.
Here's the doomsday scenario. So if Steam is going to have a problem with Windows Universal binaries, making the switch from Win32 to Windows Universal binaries, Steam is getting Valve is getting a hell of a practice run with that right now, helping developers port games to Linux, because the process is similar, it's related. You'd have to jump through some very similar hoops, although The hoops are shaped differently and completely different colors and made out of entirely different materials.
Yeah, they're like more like rhombuses or something.
Yeah, like politically and bureaucratically, like these projects have a bureaucratic and political component. And by doing this with Linux, they are quickly doing the bureaucratic and political component. And so since they've got 15 or 1600 titles available on Linux now, and plus Linux as a platform has been difficult to develop with because the whole graphics system on Linux is changing completely for the better. I mean, the Linux kernel that was just released not even a week ago, 4.7, has huge changes to support the new AMD graphics chips and that sort of thing. And so, but it's good. There's a lot of rapid progress here. Is it fast enough? I don't know. Time will tell. But because Valve is already doing those kinds of things to be able to support Steam boxes and Linux on Steam, I think they're already sort of ahead of the game in terms of being able to support a possibly new Windows binary platform that actually would work with this.
Now, Microsoft, if you want to really take over the universe when it comes to gaming, I'm going to tell you what to do right now, and we'll see in 5 years how much you've not done what I'm about to tell you. So, first off, don't break support for Win32, especially when someone's on a computer. If Steam wants to come over to the Universal Windows platform, help them do it, because you want your platform to grow, right? You want more people on your platform. So, offer your own games, have a competitive market on your Windows store. Great. Now, if any games are developed, for the Universal Windows platform, make them playable on all your devices, including your Xbox, but with different settings. And when it loads up on an Xbox, it should know, oh, this is an Xbox, so we're going to run it at 1080p and whatever. But, if you're on a PC, don't make people buy the same game twice. It's the same piece of software, and if it's running, under the Universal Windows platform, then it shouldn't be different from platform to platform. Allow Steam on the Xbox. That would be freaking cool, huh? And, just all the games that are Win32 are not going to work on Xbox. Yeah. But don't break their support. If, for people who want to go back and play retro games like Deus Ex and Half-Life 1 and all that sort of thing, don't break the retro support. So listen to all that stuff. Put it in a memo. One guy at Microsoft who's watching this right now, tell somebody important so they can slap you in the face. And then we'll see in 5 years. Anyway, that's like the ultimate, that would be a good idea scenario. I don't know. I don't think Microsoft's going to do that. Anyway, there's a bunch of new Microsoft updates coming out. They got their new, their anniversary update. And people are kind of freaking out about this. There have been some reports that you cannot get rid of Cortana's presence. Well, it seems like you can. And there's an article here on Reddit, or a post here on Reddit, that says you can. But
we don't actually know.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So
we won't know until the anniversary update's actually out. So, fun fact, I'm running the anniversary update, or the preview, or the fast ring builds, whatever the hell that is. Yeah, on my Surface Book, and the fast ring build will let you disable this stuff through group policy. But there seem to be other things where they're like, oh, we're deprecating this with the updates coming for this. So this strikes me, if they are disabling group policy on Windows 10 Pro. This strikes me as an unbelievably shitty move by Microsoft, and I will be grabbing my torches and pitchforks and rioting accordingly if this actually comes to fruition. By the time you're watching this, Windows 10 is also no longer free, apparently, or at least the deadline to get your free copy of free upgrade or whatever to Windows 10 has passed, and I don't know what that's going to be. Are they going to turn that back on? Are they going to charge you $119? I have no idea, but I really enjoy Linux these days. Linux on the desktop is pretty good. I've always been kind of operating system agnostic. It's like, I use a Mac, Windows, Linux. I don't care. Whatever gets the job done. Microsoft is really, really pushing it. I think with a lot of this stuff. I mean, even casual, filthy casual consumers, I think are sort of pushing back against some of the shenanigans here. And the telemetry stuff is really off the chain. I mean, you can't even, like the Windows host file blocking firewall, you have to have an external firewall to be able to block traffic to the Windows telemetry servers. It's like I don't want to, I want a null route to these IP addresses. Nope, doesn't work.
Yeah, and then that a lot of times that disables functionality to some of your other programs like Skype and stuff. If you block the wrong, IP addresses or whatever. The thing about this, the whole group policy, I think the thing that bothers me the most, the group policy thing is really annoying, but they are disabling some of the registry hacks and some of the policy settings that would allow you to turn off the automatic downloading of sponsored apps like Candy Crush and Flipper, Twitter, Netflix, Pandora, and all that sort of stuff, MS News. So now these things are just going to automatically download themselves, and I'll have to go in there and manually delete them, and then I'll probably get an update, and all this shit will download again. And I'm like, why do I have Candy Crush? I don't want Candy Crush to ever be on my system. Why is this showing up? So if that's really a thing, Microsoft, what the hell are you doing?
One of the things was you get a little slide-in notice at the bottom that's like, hey, you got a driver out of date or whatever. But it slides in and it's like, would you like to try Office 365 for free for a month? That was one of the things that a lot of people disabled. I think probably such an astonishing number of people disabled these things explicitly, jumped through the hoops to do that Microsoft was just blown away. I know that Jerry Barnacles, he made like 12 or 15 videos, and he tweeted, it seemed like it was after literally every Windows update. He's like, after this update, my preferences have been reset. Like, I don't want these things. I don't want these things. I don't want these things. And after every single Windows update, I go back to the menu and it has changed my preferences. And so it's just like, it's a futile, it's like you're in a battle with Microsoft. And it's like, no, it's not, you know, I remember a time when Microsoft's motto was, where do you want to go today? And, you know, these days it's like, you know, Clippy's wearing a GIMP suit and has a riding crop. It's bad.
It's exactly. It's almost like they've gone the whole Apple route, where it's not, where do you want to go today? It's like, I tell you where we're going today, and you're along for the ride. So, you know, Barnacles, I think he was in the division of Microsoft when he was working there that was responsible for quality assurance for all of the Microsoft updates. And then they just fired all the people doing bug testing and quality assurance for Microsoft Update. And since then, there's been about 100,000 articles written about how upset people are about the Windows Update, because now we're the guinea pigs who have to bug test Microsoft's updates when they're rolled out for real. Kind of weird. But yeah, Jerry's videos are pretty damn funny about this. I'm kind of sad that they're necessary, but you know. Guys, we got some cool stuff in the store. What do you think about the surprise Linux and Linux accessories shirt? That's exactly what I said you'd say. We had somebody on the forum draw that. Actually, I think Sean drew that one, so thanks very much, Sean. Remember, guys, if you guys have an awesome t-shirt design, head over to the forum and drop it in there. If we use it, we'll give you $100. This is the shirt of the month, so it'll be available for just a few more days. Just a few more days to get this very ridiculous shirt of the month, in which I do not spoof any other technology-based YouTubers. Maybe it's a reality show. Is he a reality show or technology these days? I don't know, a little bit of both, right? And put it in a blender and see what you get, right? There's other stuff on here you should buy. All of it. Mouse pads are flying out of the store.
If they use Blender, but they don't.
Yeah. Someone put an article up that like, hey, we need to join forces, and then of course everyone on the forum, there's no middle ground. Everyone's like, that's a terrible idea, or that's an amazing idea. There's no like, I don't know about this. So people are very polarized when it comes to the idea of us working together with Linus Tech Tips. Guys, I invite some of you guys down to Portland if you want to do an episode of your hardware wars or whatever. Come on down and we'll do it. And you know what? It'll be you guys are going to get destroyed. You can't.
Can I enter my Blade Center?
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on.
A terabyte and a half of RAM.
Sure. Yeah. Let's do it. Flying around the world. That's another world record has been broken. A couple of guys here from the Swiss Aviator. I'm not going to try to pronounce it, Mr. Picard, and his fellow pilot Borschberg. I can't say these names. Anyway, they flew all the way around the Earth in a solar-powered plane, taken off and landed several times.
Yes.
Without a drop of fuel. Still impressive. Now they need to do it once.
Extremely impressive. Yeah, they need to do it once without landing.
All right, so let's head over to the United Arab Emirates. And if we've got some fans over there, what's going on? Staying cool. Anyway, VPNs are now banned, and you can get in big trouble for using them for illegal activities. The fines for using a VPN for illegal activities, here you go, $130,000 to $545,000 in euros. That's $415,000 to $495,000. That's what you can be fined for using a VPN for illegal activities.
I didn't think this was any big deal when I first read it, but then I read into it a little bit more, and they specifically have in mind that masking your IP address is actually one of the things. So if you're masking your IP address in order to get something that you otherwise don't have access to, e.g., streaming Netflix or watching Game of
Skype
Thrones,
or WhatsApp or whatever,
$545,000. Wow. Yeah, this is not good. If this is a preview of what's to come in the West, I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
They're also cracking down on people who are using, I think one of the big things here is like a lot of the major telecommunications providers in the area came and they said, hey, people are using these VPNs and they're hopping onto WhatsApp and they're hopping onto Skype and they're doing like calls all across the world and they're not paying us a dime. What are you going to do about it, Mr. Politician? And they're like, oh yeah, that is right. Well, we better stop them. And they're really cracking down on all the voice over IP stuff. They've banned pretty much all of them except for a couple who, of course, charge for long distance calling and all that sort of thing. So this was kind of a step to ensure that people are not able to take advantage of, or not take advantage of, or just get around the paying the local big business telecommunications providers. And that's a very sad thing. I hope that other countries around the world don't look at this and think, we could just crack down on all these people who are getting free communication and take us back to the 70s. That would be really stupid. But, I wouldn't put it past them. They would love to do that in Tennessee, I bet, right now. Yeah. Anyway, a quick mention here, the security exits. This is kind of an older article. I think we even talked about this before. The security experts cloned all the TSA master keys. But, they've just released a final master key that should be able to open anything that goes through TSA. TSA has their master key that opens all the luggage and that sort of thing. And I mean, this stuff's not that big of a deal because these are just simple padlocks that anybody who knows anything about opening locks should be able to open one of these pretty quickly with simple tools. But
it's more hilarious than that. I definitely remember the Schadenfreude of the first time we reported on this. It was literally, I didn't realize that somebody could make a key with just a picture of a key, and it's like, you clearly have no idea how keys work, sir.
And what's really funny about this entire thing is that the TSA knows, and they're not changing anything because it's security theater. Yeah, it's security theater. It's like, hey, do you guys feel safe? Because that's all we care about. We've never stopped a terrorist. We've never caught anybody. I mean, we just like to look at your dingly bits when you go through the strange curvy X-ray thing that Tim's uncle owns the company for, and so we bought billions of dollars worth of them. That's how it all works, right? Let's just skip on past that. It is kind of funny. All right, let's get to some hardware stuff. Nvidia, they were sued, class action lawsuit over the GTX 970 because they were advertising 4 gigabytes, 3.5 gigabytes of memory was usable, and then there was an extra 5 gigabytes doing who knows what else. But they had advertised 4 gigabytes on the box, so they were sued, and now they've been ordered to pay $1.3 million in attorney fees, and they've also been ordered to pay $30 to everyone who owns a 970. So if you've got a 970, hey, the card's a hell of a card, runs great. You're going to get $30 back. I'm not sure exactly what you need to do to go claim your money, but should be in here somewhere. You'll be able to go and claim your money. So go do that. Would you?
$30 for 500 megabytes of memory.
Woo! Yay! Still a fast card, but yeah, false advertisement a little bit. What's next on the list here? How about some AMD stuff here? So AMD has a really interesting idea to overcome a problem. And that's on their professional cards. Their Fire Pros are now called the Radeon Pro cards. And this is the Radeon Pro SSG. And what they've done with this one is they put sort of an M.2 slot. I believe it's an M.2 slot or whatever on it. Is that am I right there, Wendell? Anyway,
up to 2 M.2s.
Yeah, okay. So
but this is a Fiji-based product, which is interesting.
So what you can do here is you can throw a couple of SSDs on there, and they can be super fast. Not as fast as RAM, of course, but it will it's going to, well, first off, it gives you a way bigger chunk of storage to be using for textures and that sort of thing. It's just an interesting workaround for the problem that they're trying to share memory with the system, and they've got what's the word I'm looking for? They're usually limited to 32 gigabytes, but sharing the system RAM and stuff. But this will give them a lot of memory on board.
This is solving a problem that people like Peter Jackson have, and people that are into really high-end rendering. and that is there's never enough memory on the video card. You need lots and lots of super ridiculous high-speed storage. Some movies, some 3D rendering and some rendering applications for modern movies, it's upwards of 15 gigabytes of video memory is required to render a single frame. And so what happens now is that, you've got your 8 gigabytes or 16 gigabytes or 32 gigabytes or whatever on your graphics card, and that is shuttled in and out from main system memory into the graphics card to complete the render. And so it's like, if you ever run Cinebench and it's like rendering a chunk, it'll render as much as it can, and then it stops while, the next load of data or the next what it needs for the next chunk of rendering is unloaded from the RAM on the graphics card and loaded from main system memory or loaded, from disk by the CPU or whatever. And this is designed to eliminate that. This is designed to be able to load the entire scene or the entire model or the entire everything onto the graphics card and just let the graphics card run. And this actually makes a lot of sense for those kinds of workloads. And it also makes sense when you think about that this type of a card is also going to be upwards of $10,000.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not for the faint of heart. You're not going to be able to play Overwatch at 1,000 FPS with this, but you would be able to render the next Lord of the Rings movie.
Yeah, for instance, the SSG, when scrubbing through 8K video, was able to do 4 gigabytes per second, and then the older 950 Pro was only able to do 900 megabytes a second. So more than 4 times the performance. Just scrubbing through 8K video, and scrubbing through 8K video with a regular graphics card is going to be probably a bit rough. So that's pretty damned interesting. All right, next up on the list here, let's talk about some more AMD news. We've got the RX 480 cards coming out from Sapphire and Power Color, just a couple different options out there. The ones from Sapphire are very attractive because the 4 gigabyte models are only $219. The Nitro editions also have a nice sleek look to it and a decent cooler. I do like the Sapphire products a lot. Is this the one you have, or do you have the 8 gigabyte version?
I've got the 8 gig version, and it's got the 4-pin power.
So this one has the this one has the 8-pin power. 4-pin means 6-pin power,
or 8-pin power.
Oh, 8-pin,
4 pins. Yeah, 8-pin.
8-pin. Yeah.
I'm stuck in the 80s. Yeah, 8-pin power.
So you got 8-pin on this one as well. The nice thing about the 4 gigabyte model and then the $219 price point is it's going to be a really nice card for 1080p gaming. You should be able to max out just about any game at 1080p, and a lot of the games will play on this card at 4K if you turn the filters off. If you turn the filters on, it's going to eat up that memory really, really quickly, and then you'll be quite unhappy. So there's that, and then also Power Color has the Devil card out if you guys want to get a huge fancy overclocked card with 8 gigabytes of memory, but it's quite a bit more expensive. And I'm not sure if I think the price performance will be in favor of the lower cost models like the 199 4 gigabyte variant and the 219 variant from Sapphire. But hey, if you want to go all out, why not? You can get the 8 gigabyte Devil.
The other thing that I'll mention that Sapphire did on the Nitro and actually on a bunch of their cards lately that I really like, why didn't anybody think of this sooner, is the modular removable fans. Holy crap. Why haven't we been doing that sooner? That's crazy. Like it's like one screw, it snaps out, done. It's not a proprietary connector. You don't have to try to route a cable through the heatsink. It's literally just, there's something weird with the fan. Oh, you accidentally stuck your finger in the computer while the computer was running and a blade broke off of the fan. It's cool. It's fine. We'll just order a new fan. It's totally good.
I think a lot of GPU manufacturers out there should be looking at what Sapphire does. They do a lot. There's a lot of companies that do innovative things, but Sapphire, they don't get enough recognition, number one, because they only make AMD cards, and the Nvidia market is just huge right now. And there hasn't been a major launch in a while. We just got the 480 right now, and it's not the craziest graphics card ever. It's a couple $100, and it's pretty damn good for a couple $100. But they just don't get enough recognition for some of the things that they've done to innovate. I think they were one of the first people to do vapor chambers, and back when they might maybe on a graphics card. But you guys will correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. I'm sure about that. But they've been doing a lot of interesting things. All right, let's go over and talk about Intel. Speaking of AMD, we may finally see a 6-core on a desktop part in 2018. It's still going to be 14 nanometer as well. It's to be the successor to Kaby Lake. It'll be the Coffee Lake.
So it's not 1 but 2 generations away.
Yeah. So we got to wait for Kaby Lake.
Why is this a big deal? It's crazy. We did a build. Okay, so we got a video coming up that's a 4-way shootout between Skylake, 2 Broadwell E configurations, the 6800K at the low end, and the Xeon 2687W, which is even beyond the $1,700 10-core desktop part. It's a 12-core desktop part that has similar clocking characteristics to the 10-core part at stock speeds. And so it's a 4-way shootout between those 3 systems and an ancient 4 generations old Xeon E5 2670. This is the one where you can pick up the CPUs on eBay, a pair of matched CPUs for around $100. The video for that build, the video for the E5 2670, we already just posted, so if you want to check that out, you can check that out. But here's the mind-blowing thing. Those 8-core, those 2670s, those are 8-core, 16-thread. Their stock clock is 2.66. If you get the right motherboard, the motherboard will let the CPU turbo all the time to 3 gigahertz. That's the motherboard that we got. That CPU with 8 cores is basically the same speed as a Skylake 4-core at 4 gigahertz. It's owing to the instructions per clock improvement on Skylake and the fact that the Skylake is flat plank running at 4 gigahertz or 4.5 gigahertz in the case of our overclock. And the benchmarks have been really interesting. Basically, I'll give you a little bit of a spoiler, but you can watch the full video because we're going to cover GTA and Doom with Vulkan and a whole bunch of other things with all these different systems. And we've also got a giveaway coming up with Fractal and a Bill Owen case, and that's what our 12-core Xeon is in. And so we'll have details for that. The giveaway is probably not going to be for a couple of weeks, so we'll have more details on that in a future video. But this 4-way shootout is really going to be amazing. And the mind-blowing thing is that for a lot of things, the Skylake system is coming out on top. Handbrake, the 16-core Xeon system that I just posted, just mops the floor with basically all of the other systems. The 12-core Xeon system really gives it a run for its money. But 16 cores, handbrake, things that parallelize really well. The ancient system that cost basically nothing, the garbage computer, just mops the floor.
Well, see,
but otherwise, the Skylake system...
Yeah, there's not a lot of programs out there that really take advantage of multiple cores on the Windows platform. It's kind of sad, but there's not many that are multi-threaded correct or written for multiple threads correctly.
Yeah, so, and here's the mind-blowing thing. I used to do a lot of really heavy stuff with After Effects, and After Effects used to parallelize really well. After Effects doesn't parallelize for crap now. It is utter crap. And so After Effects at 1080p and 4K is faster on Skylake at 4.5 gigahertz than it is on a 6800K 6 cores at 4 gigahertz. That's mind-blowing for me. It's absolutely mind-blowing.
You're just using the frequency advantage there. That's pretty much all it is.
Yeah, it's completely nuts. There's if you roll back to the 2014 version of After Effects and you tick a box that's multi-frame render, then all of a sudden the Xeon E5, the dual Xeon E5, it wins again. But the modern version, the current version of Adobe After Effects is not capable of rendering multiple frames at the same time. Adobe, I did an Adobe support ticket, and they said the reason for that is because they're completely rewriting the rendering subsystem to better support multi-cores. But that means that for like more than 6 or 8 cores, there's not really a good use case on the desktop other than handbrake. And if you really are going to do that, you would be better off to get a 6800K and the garbage computer. But we'll have that in another video. But it's really nice to see that in a Skylake type platform in the future, we'll have 6 cores. Because I really think that there should have been a Skylake part that had 6 cores available today now, because I think 6 cores right now is really the sweet spot to cover everything, assuming that you can get 4 gigahertz, and you can basically get 4 gigahertz on a 6800K. The other CPUs that have more cores is actually harder to get 4 gigahertz, which is surprising.
Guys, if you haven't seen it,
a little bit surprising.
Go watch the video. It's called "Turn an Old Server into a Gaming Rig." It's a 16 core and 64 gigabytes of RAM. Go watch it, because it's not just playing around with server parts. It's also like doing some heavy modifications to put this giant server motherboard into a regular case. We had to make new screw holes. It's one of I think it's one of my favorite videos you've made in a while, Wendell. So everyone needs to go and take a look at this video. It's a ton of fun to watch. Just seeing all the stuff that they had to do to make it work.
Now, for gaming, for things like, it's like I want to play GTA and I want to play, Ashes of the Singularity and I want to play Doom and this kind of thing. Those kinds of things are not really CPU bound. As long as your CPU is fast enough, it's not going to bottleneck. And so when you look at gaming, like Skylake versus that machine, there's not really a lot of difference in gaming. It really depends on your graphics card. But for other tasks, like rendering in the Adobe suite and doing other, like certain types of games that are really, really CPU bound, you'll get an extra few FPS in the game. You'll get an extra 1 or 2 FPS in GTA from the 4 gigahertz Skylake. But most of your other stuff that you're doing for gaming and stuff like that doesn't really matter. And 16 cores lets you run a lot of virtual machines, 64 gigabytes of RAM. I mean, that the Xeon old server conversion was literally, even if you pay retail eBay prices, it was the cheapest machine by a significant margin, owing to the fact that it's got 64 gigabytes of error correcting memory, which, is like $100 maybe on eBay, versus, outfitting Skylake with 64 gigabytes is going to set you back a little bit more than $100. It's basically a wash on the motherboard and CPU. Skylake is, expensive CPU, inexpensive motherboard, and this Xeon E5 is, free CPUs, but a very expensive motherboard. So, it's really interesting the way the benchmarks are coming out. But the most surprising thing to me is that the Broadwell E hasn't been that great. I want the enthusiast part. I want the Broadwell E. I want the 6 or the 8 core Broadwell E, but you've got to overclock it to 4 gigahertz to get the value. And if you can't overclock it to 4 gigahertz or 4.2, it's hard. And with Skylake, just about every Skylake i7 can hit 4.5. That's going to be a great video.
Stay tuned for all that stuff. All right, let's take a look at Project Tango, because I think this is something I actually got to get my hands on in Paris at the Lenovo booth. I first passed by the Lenovo booth and I was like, super fish bastards. And then I saw, they got the new Moto Z or whatever, and I was like, Then I wandered into their booth and I was like, Project Tango. So if you've been hiding under a rock, Google's been working on Project Tango for a while. It allows you to use your phone to basically map out the environment. And then from there, there's all sorts of things you can do with it. For instance, you could maybe do some augmented reality stuff where instead of just having a Pokemon appear on the screen somewhere, the Pokemon could be sitting on your piano or sitting on top of your china cabinet, which all of us have, right? Or you could use it to look at an object in the real world and say, like, hey, how tall is that table? And you could touch the screen and then touch the screen somewhere else, and it would give you an accurate measurement of how tall it is from the top of the table to the ground, because it's using some internal sensors plus the camera plus some other magic stuff to, check out the room. It's kind of interesting technology, but I think this is something that we'll see on lots and lots of devices in the future. But right now, it still needs a lot of processing power. So as processors get faster,
I want an API
we'll
for this.
Mm-hmm.
I did a project once with Bluetooth Low Energy, which was like internal building mapping. So it's like you're inside this complex building, and it's like, okay, I need to whip out my phone and use my phone to try to navigate inside this, complex megastructure. GPS is not going to work in that case. Mm-hmm. And, which Wi-Fi access points can you see doesn't really work. That plus this location mapping technology, oh man, that's going to be perfect. This is going to be great. You're going to have, step-by-step directions of which train you need to get on, and this is really where it's going to be at for a heads-up display or something like Google Glass. And it's like, let me route you to where you need to be. And it's like, I'm feeling like Chinese. And then you just see footsteps in front of you in augmented reality, and it just handles it. And you don't have to think about it. That will be great. That's
going to be really cool. I mean, I love what they're doing here with the app. This is the Lowe's app, and it's going to completely make old school measuring a thing of the past, unless you need like very, 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 very precision measurements. Like if you're doing construction, probably you are going to be using old school measurements for now if you need down to like the 16th of an inch or down to the millimeter or something like that. But with this, you can take very quick, rough estimates, and it'll be like, oh, that's, 50 centimeters tall or something, just by clicking on a couple spots. So you won't have to go grab your tape measure. You can easily get an idea, be like, oh, this is a 6x10 room, just by clicking around on your device. So there's some pretty cool applications for this. They're running it here. Like I said, it needs a lot of power. They're running it on the Snapdragon 652 from Qualcomm. We might be doing some cool stuff with that pretty soon. I'll be playing with some of those Qualcomms and seeing what we can do with them. And expect some ridiculous stuff out of that.
Turns out they're fast and low power, so who knew?
Fast and low power means fun. Let's see here. I've got an article here from Wall Street Journal that won't load the entire article. But SoftBank, speaking of ARM stuff, is in a week they put together an offer, and they're buying ARM holdings for $32 billion. SoftBank is out of Japan, and they're buying UK-based ARM holding. I don't know what to speculate with this. It's now going to be a Japanese-owned thing. Interesting. Well, ARM's going to be the future.
It's really, really interesting. Didn't SoftBank also buy Sprint recently, which is, a thing?
What is SoftBank up to?
I thought this was really interesting. It kind of sucks that it's, you know, that they're Brexiting, I guess. But I think that this was probably inevitable because, you know, at this point the fabrication, you know, TSMC, Samsung, and Intel are basically in control of the fabrication processes for ultra miniaturized, ultra low power stuff. And so it seems basically inevitable that somebody like SoftBank, if not SoftBank, would buy them. What I would be really interested to know is if anybody inside Samsung was like, holy crap, ARM was for sale? Why didn't we get the memo? And would they have matched, or, you know, were they in the bidding process? Was Samsung involved in this? Because I would have pegged somebody like Samsung for buying ARM, you know,
or
honestly.
Qualcomm even, I mean, really. I'm not sure how much cash they have on hand, but I would think that they have enough to buy ARM. That would be, yeah. That'd be like Intel owning x86, Qualcomm owning ARM. Anyway, this is actually one of my favorite articles of the entire day. D&D. There's a D&D, I guess. Well, no, this is. I'm just gonna forget the headline here. The D&D on your tablet and your browser, complete with dice and Dungeon Master. Yeah. So there's a program called Roll20 that was kickstarted, and Roll20 is a program that allows you to very, very easily connect with your friends on the internet, or even just, you can use it locally as well. But it's an application that allows a Dungeon Master or Game Master, or whatever you guys call them, I'm old school, to go in and create a scenario campaign, dungeons, levels, grids, all kinds of different things, and fill it with monsters. And then you can play through the scenario. It allows you to, you know, keep track of people's hit points and their character sheets and items and just all kinds of things. It's a really nice piece of software, especially for people who want to get super nerdy about the game. And they have just gotten official full support for Dungeons and Dragons from Wizards of the Coast. So that means that you'll have to pay a little bit for that package, but that means that you'll be able to basically just import everything, all the monsters, and then you'll be able to just. Right now, I mean, you'd have to go. You have to put all this stuff in by hand, but now you'll just be able to grab all this stuff. You grab the starter set from D&D 5th Ed, and put it all together, and then start playing your game. And I think stuff like this is really cool because, you know, it's nice to be able to play with people who are in a remote location. It also has support for Google Hangouts, which is cool. So you just send somebody a link, they click the link, they join into your game with one click, and then you open up Google Hangouts and you're good to go. If you still like the physical rolling, you can do that and then enter the rolls in, like, you know, like our druid just rolled an 8, and, you know, you got the webcam or whatever. You can do that if you want to, but there's also a way to do a digital roll. Yeah, so the guys over at Roll20 have done a really nice job on this. So if you guys are watching anybody from Roll20, you guys are awesome. Good piece of software. I usually play a little bit looser than this, but you know, you can do that if you want. You don't have to like be really, really, really strict with it. You can go in there and just, you know, the Dungeon Master has the ability to move things around and be flexible, so it'll suit my type of play as well. We should get a game or something of this going pretty soon with some people. Who knows? Anyway, it's exciting. Last up on the list here, there's now a video game called Computer Repair Simulator. And I guess this is interesting for a lot of people out there who can't afford to go out and grab a gazillion parts. Hey guys, if you really want to learn how to mess with computers, go dumpster diving, go to your local places that are getting rid of computers and find all the parts you can, take them apart, put them back together 50 times, troubleshoot them and all that sort of thing. But this one will allow you to go in and it will come up with scenarios, quote unquote realistic scenarios, where it'll be like, hey, can you repair this computer? Can you repair this laptop? Something's wrong with it. Oh, the CPU is burnt out. You got to replace the CPU. Stuff like that. So you'll be able to go in and realistically, I guess as realistically as you can in a game, but like go in and like do stuff. And then maybe after you do it for a while in here, you'll be able to go to a real machine and be like, wait a minute, this is all very familiar. I can do this. Could be an interesting way to, this might be better than just studying for an A+ certification. Do this in combination with that and you'll have a leg up. Kind of cool. I don't know, you think you'll have some of your guys...
You know, I've only ever encountered a bad CPU like twice.
Yeah, I guess unless they're... even if
like
they have a bent pen, you can
CPU.
fix it, you know, usually.
Well, I'm not counting bent pens. I'm not counting things like that. I literally had a CPU once where the machine would post and would be fine, but was completely unstable. And I was like, this has got to be the motherboard. Nope, it was a CPU, and it was one of the land grid array CPUs, and the CPU did it in a bunch of different motherboards from a bunch of different vendors. And I've never seen a CPU fail that way. I've seen maybe 4 CPUs that were just stone dead, but I've only seen one CPU. It was almost like its cache memory was generating errors like crazy, and it would kind of work but kind of not work, because the cache memory has a little bit of an error correction capability but not really. And so that would be interesting if it had like a bad CPU. The screenshots of this look good. It seems like this guy's website is having way more traffic than it can handle, because the pictures don't load half the time. It seems like it's a good premise, but it's not available yet. And so we're just being part of the hype machine right now. But everybody go check it out, and the website will go down.
We've just ruined your website, man. I'm very sorry about that. Hey, but call Wendell. He can set you up with some hosting packages. All right, that's pretty much it for today, guys. Let us know what you think in the comments. It is like 200,000 degrees in this room, so I'm going to go jump into the pool immediately. It's full of alligators, I'm sure, but I don't care. I will wrestle them. Not wrestle. You don't wrestle alligators, you wrestle them. Just like you do bears, you wrestle them. I don't know where I'm going with this. Thanks to everybody for doing cool things and being cool, and I don't know, like and subscribe, and I don't know, we should hire someone else to just come on at the end and sell all the kinds of crap and like and subscribe and click on some stuff and whatever else, but you know, that's pretty much it. So you see you guys, that's next week with a sounded drunk right there, but I don't care. See you guys next week. Later.